Right, guys, today I wanted to talk about the potential rumour of Matthijs De Ligt going to Bayern Munich. So the report reads, after selling Robert Lewandowski, Bayern Munich will increase their bid to Juventus for the Netherlands defender Matthijs De Ligt, aged 22, who has already agreed personal terms for a 5-year contract, and that is according to Nicolo Schira. Sounds German, so we'll assume he's a German reporter. And yeah, so the move. Well, first of all, let's go over Lewandowski to Barcelona. How on earth Barcelona have managed to afford him, I don't know. With the amount of debt they've got, but it has given Bayern Munich about 40 million to play around with, and apparently Juventus for De Ligt wanted about 100 million. That was the quoted figure when Chelsea were trying to sign him, but have gone for Koulibaly and currently Presnel Kimpembe they're apparently after instead. So yeah, 40 million for Bayern Munich. Now, are they really going to spend 100 million on a centre back? I think with De Ligt, he's definitely not going to be a terrible player. I think he's a very good defender, and I think his skill set and the way he plays would be more suited to the Bundesliga than it is to Serie A with Juventus. Like he's obviously a very big player for someone who is only 22. Like it's not like he's even grown over the past 3 years. Like even when he was like 18 or 19 playing at Ajax 3 seasons ago, he was still like the size of most people, like most defenders when they're in their late 20s. Like he is an absolute machine, and he's also got a lot of speed as well. He's like very athletic on top of the physicality as well, which is what I think he would be suited to the Bundesliga, because we've seen Bayern Munich over the past few years have players like Nicolo Schira, for instance. Schira, he's very big and physical, but he hasn't got the pace at all. And that's why he struggled at times for Bayern Munich. So I think De Ligt is definitely an upgrade on Nicolo Schira, and it's most likely that he would be playing alongside Upamecano, who hasn't had the most amazing first season in the Bundesliga, but again, same as De Ligt, he is still very young, so has a lot of chances to improve in the next few years, I think. So the fact that he's already agreed personal terms instantly says that he's keen for the move. It's just whether Bayern can agree a deal with Juventus, and I think Juventus is going to hold out for as much money as they can because they definitely need it. They are one of the 3 or 4 teams in Europe who, like the 3 or 4 big teams, I mean, who are absolutely desperate for any money they can get. And the teams probably are Barcelona, Juventus, Inter Milan, and maybe Real Madrid, although it doesn't really come across at the moment. Like you don't really hear much about them struggling because they have spent some money on players over the past couple of years still, with Camavinga, Chouameni, and like other players signing for them. But yeah, I think this is, a good continuation of Bayern's like young rebuild since they've won the Champions League in 2020. Like they've had to sell or get rid of quite a few players just because they were, getting on in their career, and they needed replacing sooner rather than later. So that's what Bayern have done. So examples of that are Javi Martinez, Jerome Boateng, David Alaba, and I'm sure there's plenty. Lewandowski, even just this summer, just now. Like even though Lewandowski was still, you could argue, at the very top of his game, it's unlikely that he was going to keep that up for another 3 or 4 years. So they've decided to move him on and start over again, which I am personally a fan of. I don't like what Barcelona have done with signing Aubameyang and Lewandowski in their 30s. It's just not setting you up for the future. and you see quite a few big teams do it over the past few years, and there are still some doing it unbelievably. Like there are some teams who are set up that way, and it does work for them. Like I know Antonio Conte, he would rather have a player he feels he can trust for 1 or 2 years than bring through someone who he's not too sure about and hope that they have a good 5 or 6 years, but it aren't as guaranteed to be playing at a higher level. Whereas, yeah, so yeah, part of Bayern's young rebuilds, along with players like Nisa Mazraoui, Upamecano, or who I've already mentioned, and also Ryan Gravenberch from Ajax as well. And yeah, also I've got down on my notes, Juventus are going to have to accept a fee at some point because that's how desperate they are for the money. So I personally think if Bayern don't have any competitors, because let's face it, their biggest competitor for De Ligt was probably Chelsea, and De Ligt won't be going to Chelsea now because they've just signed Koulibaly, and Chelsea aren't going to want to spend another 100 million on a centre back. Not another, as though they spent 100 on Koulibaly, but I mean, like, they're not going to want to spend a lot of money again on a centre back. They'll be looking to spend maybe the same price they spent on Koulibaly for another centre back. So yeah, I think if Bayern just hold out for their price, maybe go for like 70 or 80 million maximum, I think they should get the player. And yeah, I think he would be a very good signing for Bayern Munich. He's already got tons of experience, De Ligt has in European football. We already know that, playing the past few years for Juventus, but also his best season in Europe was obviously that 2018-19 campaign with Ajax, who he just like had a phenomenal season that year for. I remember his header against Juventus in the quarter-final that I think it won the tie for them in the end. They drew the first leg, and I think they won the second leg 2-1. Also played very well in the round of 16 against Real Madrid, and had it not been for a second half turnaround by Lucas Moura in the second leg of the semi-final against Tottenham, he would have played in the Champions League final and hopefully lost, as I am a Liverpool fan. Yeah, but yeah, if I was giving this move a rating out of 10, I'd personally give it an 8, and the only reason it's not higher than an 8 is purely because it is going to cost a lot of money for Bayern Munich to sign De Ligt, because even if they do hold out for the price they'd be willing to pay, it's still going to be a lot more money than they'd ideally want to pay for a centre-back, because Bayern Munich aren't a club who spends silly money on players. Like we've seen over the past few years, obviously the main examples are Barcelona spending over 100 million on 3 separate players in Coutinho, Dembele and Griezmann. Real Madrid also spending a stupid amount of money on an ageing Eden Hazard, and they've done it with other players as well. Atletico Madrid on a fairly unproven João Felix. Don't get me wrong, he's still a very good player, but 120 million, I'm not so sure. And obviously PSG, but that's different because they've got all the riches in the world, so they can afford it. Bayern Munich, the most they've spent, I think, is they did spend a lot of money on Lucas Hernandez at left back. I think that was around the 70 or 80 million pound mark, which is probably what they'll spend on De Ligt. But other than that, they haven't really spent much more, like anything really close to that, I don't think. Lewandowski was a free transfer. The most I can remember them spending outside of that is probably Mane for 40 million or Sane for 40 million. Like there really isn't that much they've spent on players. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.